He's gonna have to fight! Bang! Pressure's coming! Dumped! Hogtied! When you've given everything, what will the record books say about you, Matthew? Hey, welcome back for Season 2, Episode 46 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Last week, Timothy McCormack was turning into a household name. He's the man that's been sentenced to 2 years in prison in connection with the NBA player betting scandal. Then the MLB free agent market went all out of left field with some long, incredibly rich deals that are probably a little inflated depending on the player and logical projections of their value. And we wrapped with predicting the NFL Conference Championship games. This week, let's crack it open with the gigantic hole that is seemingly about to be punched in the Milwaukee Bucks franchise. Just what might it take for any NBA team to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and where might he be going? It's pretty rare to see a 31-year-old player that's just picked up an injury and it actually heated up their trade market. That seems to be what Milwaukee is dealing with, though, as their two-time MVP big man went out with a calf strain on Friday the 23rd in a game against the Nuggets. A calf strain's just a tricky injury, which usually in sports terms means that the re-injury risk is high just by the nature of your sport. Balance, explosion, absorbing impact, it's not difficult to figure out why a calf injury affects a basketball player more than an athlete in some other sports. I'm not Mr. Sports Science. Shout out to Sports Science with John Brankus, by the way. That was one of the best shows ever aired on ESPN. My point, this sounds like it should be a disaster. And Giannis has a ton of mileage on his body by now. He's in year 13, he's played almost 900 games, and this is the only year since his rookie year that he's averaged under 30 minutes a game. Yeah, that makes you pretty close to an Iron Man in the modern NBA. There wasn't a whole lot of secrecy last year at the deadline when Giannis was being shopped, and this year, same thing. It's not the first time this has happened, and around the internet, the Giannis cycle memes are getting good. The beginning stage, well, it starts with, oh, the Bucks are kind of not good and they're not really going anywhere. That's where they are right now at 9 games under 500 and 12th place in the East outside of the play-in tournament. Thankfully, last year they were a playoff team and they were able to withstand Giannis missing 15 games with injuries. Still, the chatter at the deadline turned into a roar, and we were kind of ready for the mega deal. Now, once again, the trade deadline is about to smack them in the face. Milwaukee's already playing without their cornerstone, losing him at a bad time, and they might have to get used to it for the long haul. What would it really take for someone to acquire a seemingly still in their prime, two-time MVP, and future Hall of Fame big? Well, this isn't entirely speculation because of the Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic trade last year. I bet there's a team that would throw a proven scorer into a huge pile of draft picks. The Warriors are a team that's been linked to Giannis, and they've lost Jimmy Butler to a torn ACL. This is somewhat reminiscent of Dame Lillard getting cut, ironically by the Bucks, and signing with the Blazers again over the summer when he was injured and he knew he wouldn't be able to play this year. The Bucks know that any move they do make isn't about this year, it's about the future. Still, they can't afford to wait until probably 2 years from now to have a player like Jimmy Butler actually get on the court and make an impact. That assumes that he would miss all of next year while recovering. Likely true. The Warriors own their own first-round picks from this year all the way to 2031. I gotta think, they must be one of the only teams that can say that. And they could dangle any or all of those. And what if they're finally ready to get rid of the constant throbbing headache that is Draymond Green? Say Jimmy Butler, Draymond, and 3 first-rounders between this year and 2028 to get back a 2-time MVP averaging 28, 10, and 6 in a quote-unquote down year. That is definitely tenable for Golden State. The Timberwolves are middling in the East, just like they were last year, currently in 6th. They could offer Giannis something fairly unique, a chance to consistently be in a 2 7-footer lineup where he doesn't exactly have to play the 5. Rudy Gobert's already there. You know about him. You know about his 4 Defensive Player of the Years. The Wolves have already shown how well this can work with Karl Anthony Towns and Gobert, and no one's going to fool themselves into thinking Cat is a better overall player than Giannis. Yes, it would be nice if Giannis could shoot threes at better than a 29% clip for his career, take advantage of some of the space Gobert can create, but there's still plenty of paint for the two. I've heard that the Wolves have less draft capital available than other teams. I gotta tell you, it's kind of hard to see online just exactly who owns what picks, and then to even be able to decipher the huge string of text underneath when some of those picks have been swapped multiple times. So if you have to sacrifice a couple of starters and good NBA players to get a superstar, you probably do it. Let's say Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels, and their current quasi-starter slash sixth-man center, Naz Reid. And I'm pegging the Houston Rockets as the number 3 most likely team to be able to swing a trade here. They have a window to win a championship with Kevin Durant, but it narrows with every game that he plays and every day that he ages. Let's say Milwaukee throws in a salary dump player like a Kyle Kuzma. He's already overpaid, $22.5 million a year. Houston would have to sacrifice a number of picks too. Ideally for them, some of the picks that they acquired in the trade for KD. Alperen Şengün is their point center, a guy who's going to start racking up triple-doubles soon. Really good player and can do a ton of different stuff, even if he is a tiny bit less potent than Giannis offensively. Fred VanVleet is ironically also recovering from a torn ACL, so he wouldn't be available for this year, but he would have a good chance to be ready for the season opener next year. He's one of the more trustworthy vet point guards, as opposed to a superstars, but $25 million a year price point, that's kind of what you're going to get. That's NBA money, man. So maybe Şengün and VanVleet and 1 or 2 other bench pieces and 3 to 4 first-round picks with receiving Kyle Kuzma back for Giannis, and maybe you start to assemble 1 Giannis worth of value that comes back to Milwaukee. The lamest scenario in the world would be that he goes nowhere. He just plays this year out for no reason, and then he gets traded in the summer. Any potential return would be definitely less than what Milwaukee would get right now. It's a total possibility because there are just so few 7-footers in history that have had his kind of offensive chops. But the drama all ends on February 5th at 3 p.m. That's the trade deadline. No one should be expecting him to stay put, and there's a decent chance that this becomes, maybe the biggest trade of all time, and it involves a bunch of teams where it's all mutually beneficial. And there's always the risk that the Dodgers swoop in and they just trade Kyle Tucker for Giannis straight up. And guess who would be making more per year? And moving along, the Olympics are beginning the Friday before the Super Bowl. I'm going to make a case for a few sports that have never been to the Olympics, but I feel they should be. This is a new one for me, but I'm the all-sports guy, so I'll give it a try. I know my first suggestion is one of the ones that's furthest away. It's one of the biggest pipe dreams, but it's powerlifting. See, if I had a nickel for every time somebody specifically called the sport of powerlifting weightlifting, which is in fact in the Olympics, I would probably have enough money to pay for the whole sport to have half-decent media coverage. Yes, I am salty. But powerlifting has an event coming up which already shows the potential and the framework they should use if they ever do make it to the Olympic stage. It's called SBD Sheffield, and it's going on this Saturday the 31st. It's held in Sheffield City in Sheffield, Yorkshire in the UK, and it's been called things like the Super Bowl of powerlifting. There's only 24 of the best competitors in the world invited. It's the most exclusive meet out there, and they're scored based on their performance relative to current world records in their weight class. It incentivizes people taking swings at those specific world records. It moves quicker than a lot of normal local meets, and I'm someone that's sat through now a bunch of the 6-hour-plus ones. And the prize pool they're offering this year, even though it's the largest they've ever had at over 450,000 pounds, and no, I don't know what that is in dollars, it's probably not even enough for a lot of people to cover all of their travel and expenses while they're there. The first place winner, the person with the highest percentage of their weight class's world record total, i.e., roughly the best powerlifter in the world, only gets $25K. Getting the sport into the Olympics doesn't make it profitable on its own, but it does draw more eyes and more investment. And the biggest thing that I would like to see, ideally, which is better endorsement opportunities for competitors. I think that the sport and the games would mutually benefit. I don't see it being around the corner, but I would love to have it eventually. And I didn't think of powerlifting for no reason either. I am, of course, super biased. I'm going to have a busy weekend coming up, and for the first time ever, I'm going to announce 2 powerlifting meets in one weekend. 2 federations, 2 venues, 2 completely different sets of competitors. I'm super stoked, in fact. We now come to the shameless plug portion of the episode, where I tell you where to find each one of those streams. On Saturday, it's a USA powerlifting meet called Panther Jungle Showdown, which is probably the coolest name for any competition of all time in any sport. And on Sunday, it's Powerlifting America No Frills II. Links for both of those will be in the description. Lifting pretty much always starts at 9 p.m. in this sport, so be ready to rise and shine with me. Thanks. Ultimate Frisbee is the number 2 sport I want to see in the Olympics. I was fortunate this summer to do PA announcing and some post-game interviewing for a pro Ultimate Frisbee team, and I was blown away by it. It's like the best Air Force football game ever, but with athletes that have some sort of basketball-level agility and explosion. The highlights go absolutely nuts. The distance of the throws, the precision of them, of course, the hang time in the air for a leaping catch, the diving all over the place with no padding. And then there's so many layers to the strategy. There are offensive and defensive units or lines, and play-calling tendencies based on the area of the field. It's so quick in terms of game time and the pace of the game. It can be super flashy and fun to watch on TV. And I think a huge bonus is it's one of the most accessible sports in the world. You would like to see them play in big football stadiums with a huge capacity, but you wouldn't need to have that in order for it to be an Olympic sport. Just a big enough turf or grass field, some plastic discs, and mark it up with lines. So simple. And I would think that makes it more cost effective than, baseball and softball, which are coming for 2028 in LA. It's not difficult to teach, but most people have never had any exposure to it besides just tossing a frisbee around in the park. I'd love to see it, and I think other people would really get into it. There are a few types of combat sports I'd still like to see, but among those, my top wish would be MMA. They already fight all around the world, and I would guess that the pool of contestants is about as diverse as any sport out there. That should, ideally, help to interest diverse audiences. The kind of money the pay-per-view fights bring in just makes me sick to my stomach, and I'm never somebody that wants to pay to watch a UFC fight. I'm not quite a big enough fan to try and pirate them either. I do know that Ronda Rousey, one of the faces of the UFC until she got her face smashed, was a medalist in judo in the Olympics before she ever fought MMA. And I have no doubt that other fighters with diverse styles and athletic backgrounds could do the same. Wrestling has been in forever, since, Greece. Boxing is a staple. And for every good MMA fighter, they can box. Taekwondo. You roll all of these into one, you add in a few other disciplines, and you're hitting the definition of mixed martial arts. So why not just contest them all at once? And for a couple of honorable mentions that I've seen other people put on their lists or have just chatted with people about before, competitive eating is up there. I am as good a glutton as anyone, I positively love food, and we're all fascinated by these people. They're so often in great shape, super healthy, and they just happen to have this unbelievable ability to put it away and not throw up. I'd love to see new or unique types of food in the challenges, and you could match that to the host city's cuisine. It could be contested in the summer or the winter. I guess people would probably prefer the summer because they could do it outside, but it could be held anywhere. It feels like America is the only place you would expect to find competitive eating, but then as I research for the episode, I find out about Major League Eating, and I smile contentedly. And what about roller derby? I think there's just not enough physicality for all Olympic sports on average. That's probably a pretty American viewpoint. And is that one of the things that's keeping American football out of the Olympics? Maybe. But what I picture is lots of mics around the arena to hear all the hits and screams and get cameras close up on the blood and crank up your rock and nu metal jams. You put all of that on TV, and then the sport could become more popular for both male and female fans. Anybody that's hardcore enough to appreciate it. I've never seen roller derby on TV. although you can bet I'm Googling it right now. That's my final honorable mention. Quick football tidbits to take us into Super Bowl week. Josh Allen had surgery for a broken bone in his right foot. It is sad to see him on crutches, but less sad than it is to see him throw a pick in overtime to lose to the Broncos and to go 8 years without any Super Bowl appearances. I strongly question if it's ever going to happen at this point, as the team has stagnated. Even if it's not at the bottom of the league, but toward the top, they have never hit the pinnacle. Josh will be ready to go for the season in plenty of time. He probably won't miss anything at all between OTAs or minicamps, and he will absolutely not change his style of play. Not yet, anyway. He carried the ball more this year and ran for more yards than he did last year, even topping his rushing touchdown total. 122 straight starts he's made. 122 straight as one of the most audacious runners and biggest targets ever. Until something breaks that he can't heal, and it happens, right in the middle of the season, he will continue to be the best one-man band out there and carry his squad with his legs and his arm. And to each and every one of you listening, I hope you are having a better week than Bill Belichick. There are really people who watch sports a lot, who watch football a lot, saw him go to 7 Super Bowls and sit second all-time in wins, and didn't vote for him to make the Hall of Fame. That's just a fact. No judgments on it. Shoot, maybe he'll take a fully deferred contract, go manage the Dodgers, and they'll win a few more World Series before he's done. Think about this a little more. Over 20% of people that should be experts, whether they be media, front office staff, retired players, what have you, voted no on Bill Belichick. These voters saw the most ironclad resume of all time. They saw 31 playoff wins. Andy Reid, probably the only coach that's ever going to have a chance to catch him, is 3 behind. They saw 3 Coach of the Year awards. They saw 19 playoff appearances and 17 division championships in 24 years in New England, and they said, nah. Again, no judgments, just facts. There's a great story I'll link for you from CBS Sports trying to account for all of the votes. I wish they could. If everyone was required to make their vote public, just like in the Ichiro Suzuki debacle, there would be some accountability. If you don't remember that, in this year's MLB Hall of Fame voting, Ichiro came up 1 single vote shy of being a unanimous selection. There were talks and scandals. There was the idea that maybe Tom Brady was really the engine to the machine. There was the rift between him and the owner, Robert Kraft, and all of that. And maybe the biggest issue was just down to the voting process itself. Belichick was up against the aforementioned Kraft, the New England owner for almost 32 years, and 3 senior players. Kraft was eligible as a contributor, and that couldn't be a more accurate label. He developed Patriot Place, the whole plaza there, all around Gillette Stadium. He hired Bill Belichick in 2000. He oversaw drafting Tom Brady. That might have worked out. He had a big role in helping end the NFL lockout in 2011 without any games missed. And his resume could go on for days, just like the other 2, Belichick and Brady. Between trying to respect and honor players from other eras that didn't make it into the Hall on their first go, and the lack of transparency around the process, something has to change. Especially before some of the all-time huge names come up on the ballot. Think Tom Brady himself. Drew Brees is eligible for next year. J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, Aaron Rodgers even. And that'll do it for Season 2, Episode 46. We're in one of the most awkward weeks of the year, where we have to absorb the fact that Sam Darnold is starting the Super Bowl, and the Patriots offense has scored 54 total points across the postseason run. I won't say the word mediocrity, but I might think it. Super Bowl predictions coming next week, of course. Thanks for coming back week after week, or as always, if you are relatively new here, we're happy to have you. Either way, check out all my socials, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, @TheVoiceOfTanner, X, just Voice of Tanner, YouTube, the whole thing spelled out with spaces. Leave a like, comment, and share, and I'll catch you next week. This has been Season 2, Episode 46 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Thanks for joining me. He's gonna have to fight! Bam! Pressure's coming. Dumped. Hogtied. When you've given everything, what will the record books say about you, Matt?